Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Novosibirsk. This is the super cruiser in the Soviet line, so this one comes after Petro. And maybe a better way of putting it is not that it is a super Petro. It's more of a Super-Riga, and you'll see why as we go throughout this video. But overall, Petro is a very, very powerful tier 10, and Novosibirsk takes a few steps back from that ship to gain what are objectively incredibly powerful main guns. When they hit, of course, as is usual with anything revolving around armor piercing. These are 254mm main guns. Petro and Riga both have 220mm. Not just a caliber increase here, but a massive pen increase. Petro was already quite good in the pen department, but this ship is around Vermont levels of pen at most ranges, even better at closer ranges. It is simply ridiculous how much pen this ship has. So you combine that with improved pen angles that we still get from the Petro, which are very nice. You should be looking at some insanely effective armor piercing into battleships. And there we go. A battleship goes broadside to you, not even fully broadside, just enough to fire all of its main guns. The vast majority of battleships have to give you 30 degrees of broadside. The slight improved pen angles should let you get some very consistent citadels through there. As always with these Soviet cruisers, we're looking at a very awkward dispersion curve. Great at close range. Anything within 13 kilometers, I would say, you're looking at better than cruiser dispersion, or around thereabouts when it comes to 13 to 14 kilometers. Outside that, though, drops off pretty quickly, getting towards battle cruiser dispersion at the further ranges. So you need to play up close to get the most out of these ships, and typically, they have the armor to do that. If you end up playing these ships outside of that 13 to 15 kilometer range window, you're going to feel like they're very, very weak. And I certainly did in those games where you feel locked out. You got to play a little further back, but very powerful at such close ranges, even medium ranges. The problem with Novosibirsk, though, is that it's a downgrade in armor, at least in my opinion. There's some side grades, there's some upgrades, like the Citadel armor is over 300mm in a lot of places. Still very exposed, like Petro, but cruisers aren't getting through that at medium ranges, so you can afford to go broadside on to a lot of cruisers. At 7 kilometers, I'm not sure I'd trust it against a Clausewitz, so that's why we're going to try to stay a little more angled here. Noticing another downside of this ship being its firing angles. 37-degree kited firing angles hurt a lot. So yeah, the Citadel armor is more protected than Petro. You gotta go way more broadside on, when kited at least. 37 degrees versus 25 degrees with Petro. What is going on there? 30 degrees for both of them when they are pushing in, so that should feel about the same. Very interesting that Novosibirsk has weaker upper belt armor, only 35mm, where Petro gets 40mm there. That is very notable, simply because we're at super ships tier, and we have a few ships now that can overmatch 35mm of armor. It's a bit of a feature that Riga has to deal with. Riga has 35mm of deck armor and upper belt armor, I believe, which get overmatched by Satsuma, Incomparable, Shikishima. There's a few of them. It doesn't happen very often, but you're more likely to see them at super ships tier than you are at tier 9. So it's a notable downside, though you do get a 50mm deck armor. I would say that most ships with HE that pen 40mm are going to pen 50mm as well. I don't see that as too big of a difference. 60 is really the big threshold afterwards, where we get a lot better, more shatters when it comes to a lot of the HE spammers. So Petro having 40mm deck armor, Novo having 50mm isn't a huge difference, but it is an advantage. The other problem here with the armor profile is going to be the superstructure. I just simply noticed that angled, I was eating so much more damage than I was used to when playing Petro. Petro can still eat damage when angled, certainly, but on top of Novosibirsk being a larger ship overall, the superstructure is a larger percentage of that ship's size too. So it's a compounding effect here where the superstructure is a lot bigger, and noticeably so, makes for a much easier target to pinpoint when angled for a lot of damage. Battleships are going to start to get full pens into your superstructure. I've eaten several 20k plus salvos into this superstructure already. Petro is not having that happen. For the HE spammers, suddenly it doesn't matter so much that you have that 50mm deck armor. They just shoot at your superstructure. This is a bit of the German battleship effect, I guess. Things like GK, where sure, you got great armor, but the superstructure, right? We all know about that. I would not say Novosibirsk is that bad. Okay, certainly not. Reminder, the ship has crazy pen. We just citadel to Kremlin at like near 20 kilometers. Crazy. But this weakness here when it comes to its armor profile means that you have to play a little further back. It's still a tanky ship, okay? I'm talking about it like it's a squishy light cruiser that it's gonna explode in one hit. That is not going to be the case. Just look at how much fire we're actually going to survive on this island. My team has not come to this flank. The enemy team is sending everything but 3 or 4 ships here. So we're in for a bit of a bad experience. We'll try and make the most of it though. We're gonna survive quite a long time still. But I think Petro eats a little bit less damage than Novosibirsk would, even in this situation. Though it does have a little bit less HP to work with too. These closer ranges, of course, is where this ship is going to shine with its dispersion. We already have top grade gunner active, so that's the reload buff here. But we're also running outnumbered, and you're gonna hear me complain about dispersion as this video goes on, but that is very important to be running on a ship like this one. We can't afford to push up into situations like this where there are more enemy ships within our firing range than friendlies. And that gives us a 10% dispersion buff. That is absolutely incredible when stacked with this special Soviet dispersion curve. At close range, should be just laser accurate. And it is, for the most part. We're still not getting the citadels I would hope for with what is over 700 millimeters of pen here. Perhaps we're getting over pens through some of these citadels that we normally wouldn't be because it's so much pen. We do get the Annapolis though, love to see it. Kuznetsov here to save the day. Certainly not the first time this is gonna happen, or the last time this will happen in this video. Kuznetsov proccing a lot with this ship, a lot more, I think, even than Petro. I think the Petro with its legendary mod though just has way better dispersion. Now I know, hot take, right? The legendary mod gives you better dispersion, so it should have better dispersion. But I think noticeably so, when running the range mod, as we are here, I was swapping in and out between reload and range mod. I think range mod probably a little better here, thanks to getting that changeover point where you have very good close range dispersion and much worse long range dispersion. It moves that out by a couple kilometers. So instead of it being a 11 to 15 kilometer window, 13 to 15 kilometer window, maybe it goes out to 14 to 18. Maybe not quite that far, but it does help your mid-range dispersion become more consistent. Petro can run that too, but I find the legendary mod with its dispersion buff gives better dispersion. And perhaps not very obviously, it's quite close for the most part, but now after playing Novosibirsk where I couldn't just slot the legendary mod and get that better dispersion, yeah, I am missing the legendary mod on Petro. So many reasons I think that Novosibirsk is a bit of a side grade. Certainly an upgrade on the guns when they hit. That pen is amazing, the better alpha damage, and by the way, the reload here. We're nearly 10 minutes in, and I haven't even mentioned that. The DPM increase here is very, very nice. Petro notably does not get a DPM upgrade over Riga. It's the same DPM, just big survivability upgrades there. And we get a much faster reload here though on Novosibirsk. You get 12.5 seconds base. So with reload mod plus top grade plus a little bit of AR, you're well below 10 seconds. For such powerful guns, that is a massive strength in itself. Though you're not getting quite the consistency, I guess, is one of the issues with this one. I would imagine Petro would feel quite similar without the legendary mod. And yet, I seem to remember it being a little bit more favorable. 12 kilometer radar here still. I should mention the utility that this ship does bring. It's not just a damage dealer, and we do need to acknowledge that. The radar utility here is quite excellent, 12 kilometer range. But of course, we do have that limitation on its duration. So only 15 seconds base means you get 2 salvos, maybe 3 if you really max out your reload, that kind of thing. It's going to be more reliant on teammates or multiple radars to take out a lot of these destroyers. Broadside Novosibirsk, we know that we can full pen them. We know that we can get those citadels. It's just a matter of if we hit. And it is a very vulnerable above water citadel. Just don't even hit him on that one. Okay, moving on. A little inconsistent. Oh, look at this broadside we're on. He's going to keep reversing, so this one will miss. But this is a great example. Really pay attention to these next two salvos. Not this one, because he kept reversing. This salvo here, okay? Flat broadside, reversing battleship, 16 kilometers. Most cruisers would not hope for citadels here. Novosibirsk, it can just get the citadels. So that is just 20k ripped away. He's only got 20k left with a yield. We get another salvo within 10 seconds of that last one. Very powerful. Did I do anything differently here? No. We just got 10% the damage that we did the previous one. Now, we shouldn't expect citadels every salvo. We shouldn't expect dev strikes every salvo. The game would not be fun if that was the case. However, it feels like we should be getting a little bit more out of this super cruiser, especially when I look at ships like Conde and Jacksonville and Annapolis and how absurdly powerful they are. And how much of a gimmick they gain over their tier 10s, right? Like, they're a big jump up on the firepower, survivability, and they gain a very strong gimmick in a burst fire or in an F key that allows the Jacksonville to get full pens on battleships without sacrificing fire chance, so it just farms incredibly well. Novosibirsk is a downgrade in armor, in my opinion. It's a small upgrade in gunpowder as far as alpha damage goes. The pen is very nice. I do think Petro probably gets through most of this, but it doesn't have the legendary mod that Petro has, which I really enjoy. 6 tort protections hits there on main. I don't know what I did differently, but I guess that slight angle was enough at this range for our near 700 mil pen not to get through them. Crazy. Little inconsistencies here and there, combined with Petro being such a powerful tier 10, make this to be a very uninteresting super ship to me. And I would imagine that a lot of you would agree with that. A Super-Riga, not a Super Petro. Because if I go and look at the server statistics and the play rates of a lot of these ships, well, at Super Ships tier, this is one of the least played ships of them all, just behind Zorky. Zorky is the least played super ship, followed by Novosibirsk. And that makes sense to me, especially considering how powerful Petro is. If I go and look at the tier 10 play rates, Petro is among the highest of the tier 10s getting played. So people could get Novosibirsk. They would have the XP to get it since they're playing Petro so much. They're just not. And I think that, I really do think that makes a lot of sense. The vast majority of situations, we're not gaining much over Petro at all in terms of the firepower. If anything, I would prefer legendary mod Petro firepower. Our survivability is going down a little bit in some ways, up a little bit in others. Perhaps we could call that a side grade. Though at closer ranges, those weaknesses start to show themselves much more so, compounding on our unfortunate long-range dispersion, which is fine. I think that's actually really good design, by the way. I think it's really interesting that you have such poor long-range dispersion, and to get the most out of the ship, you have to push up. You got to play closer, which then lets you take advantage of the radar toolkit, and that the ship's design literally forces you to play towards its strengths and objectives and make the game more interesting, right? We get so many passive, boring, in my opinion, campy, HE farming, pre-kited 20-kilometer games that end in blowouts because the DDs went in and died instantly, and then everybody just stays at the back anyway and doesn't push. It's really cool that this line emphasizes getting up into the fight. I just don't think Novosibirsk, at least in randoms, in my experience, has the survivability that Petro does to allow it to play as aggressively and interestingly as Petro can at tier 10. So for me, I had a pretty tough time actually getting games for this video. It took me a lot of time to play on and off stream. This was not a situation of Jacksonville where I played 3 games total and it was a whole video. This one took a long time. Much more likely because it's not quite as powerful a ship. Perhaps I'm also becoming more of a light cruiser enjoyer rather than a battle cruiser enjoyer. That's certainly the playstyle I prefer when it comes to my cruiser games. Relatively consistent citadels, though, into this Conqueror, who's just chilling broadside. Still taking us a while to deal with them. We're on a lot of fires here, and who's here to save the day? Kuznetzov! I mean, the Soviet ships having Kuznetsov as a commander really carries them in a lot of these close-range scenarios, and Novosibirsk really benefits from that. Wait, what's this? This isn't a Novosibirsk in a in its own video. Wait, what is this? Petro? What is Petro doing here? I had to play one Petro game as a sanity check, and this is what I got. I do not think we need massive buffs to something like Novosibirsk. The guns are still great. I don't want to see this game just head towards further and further insane power creep. But if we want Novosibirsk to feel like an upgrade over Petro, it could use some love. I'll just put it that way. Maybe something to help it survive a little bit more. Didn't even talk about the difference in guns where we get 360-degree guns. Notice with the Petro here, on top of just the sheer consistency into this Nevsky at like 14 kilometers. Yeah, I mean, we smash the Sibir who goes broadside at 2 kilometers or whatever. Novosibirsk is going to do that too. But we had so many opportunities, just like into this Nevsky with the Novosibirsk, and it just wasn't consistently hitting nice salvos, getting those citadels. Play one game of Petro, and there it is. But we were firing off the right side of our ship. I swap over to the left side of my ship because I see the Yuga mode smoked up. We radar. I mean, you're not getting your rear turret around to get that salvo if you don't have 360-degree turrets. So much of Petro's toolkit allows it to very comfortably play at these closer ranges. And Novosibirsk loses a lot of that, and it feels less enjoyable as a result. In absolute terms, when the guns hit, when the shells hit, yeah, it is a more powerful ship. Higher DPM, higher pen, higher alpha damage, all that. But it just can't survive those closer ranges quite as well as Petro, and it's in much more difficult matchmaker because you're going to be in super ships all the time. We have a larger superstructure where if a Hawaii gets a hold of us, he's going to rip 20k off us pretty much instantly. Petro, I mean, Hawaii is not going to hit your superstructure that consistently. Have you ever tried to farm a bow on Petro in your high DPM light cruiser? It's not easy. This ship lives forever just because you can't hit that superstructure. It's way too small. Maybe Petro being too strong in that regard, perhaps, but it is what Novosibirsk has to deal with. And lastly, I don't really bring up AA very often because surface ships really don't have great AA. But Petro surprisingly does. A lot of flak bursts, a lot of range, a lot of damage output. You can play it close range with a Petro into a carrier game, assuming you're running D-Fire in that, to avoid some salvos. You're not the first target that the carrier wants to go after, I should say. Notably, Novosibirsk has half the flak burst that Petro does. And the AA DPS is pretty similar as well. So trying to push up into a carrier game is very, very bad in a Novosibirsk. You're gonna get struck over and over. There's really nothing you can do about it. I suppose since playing Petro last, I'm sure the buff to carriers has come through as well. So I'm dealing with nerfed AA currently versus what I'm remembering Petro had before that AA nerf came through. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, carriers now have a force field essentially to completely negate the vast majority of AA damage. And that allows them to strike through some pretty powerful AA ships pretty much for free. More so even yet than they used to. I think we're also going to play for this same island, guys. Into the live game. I know AA and that people don't want to talk about too much, and I don't either. It's a very negative conversation, of course, but it is something Novo is weaker at. Something it's stronger, though, is its concealment. Couple, like half a kilometer maybe better detect than Petro does have at its best. So that is nice, allowing us to get into these positions a little bit easier. But making our way up to this island and then gonna go bow on into a carrier game, eh? We'll see how that works out for us. Probably not such a good idea, but this is where I would go if I was running a... We'll have to watch the crossfire here. Could be a Montana, that would be bad. I probably would still go here, even in a carrier game with a Petro, notably. So, because I would mainly be trusting the AA much more so. We'll just go bow on, not get greedy for our rear turret for now. And this is a more standard position to play. This is trying to catch the crossfire. You see how these guys are angled to my teammates down here. We get a very nice crossfire. Anybody from the middle wanting to go around like this can be common. Hey, there's some of that improved pen angle. Allows us to catch their broadsides as well. It's a very common island, but hey, we should definitely be using these common islands. Alvaro perfectly sitting in a spot that I can't hit him unless he goes forward. There we go. That's better. Smolensk, perhaps trying to get into a position to farm us. We'll have to watch that we don't reverse too far on this one, as we will definitely... Oh, there's Monty. That's actually really good to know. Then he's not here crossfiring us. What would be there then? Would that be Valparaiso? That might be Valparaiso. We just did an overpen and 3 full pens into a Smolensk. That's interesting. Wasn't he angled? We overmatch 16 millimeters. That is a notable advantage that these guns have as well. I don't think it's that valuable because of the improved pen angles. Notice how we're getting struck here. We barely shot a single plane down. Hey, a Citadel into the Smolensk though. Let's go. Yeah. We are very much vulnerable to a carrier striking us, unfortunately. I do think petro is much more capable of deterring that. It's an unfortunate thing to bring up because it's such a frustration of mine that there's not really counterplay there and you just eat the damage. But it is something we need to bring up when we're trying to play more aggressive. I have to for my effective range. I would call like my effective range a little bigger than our radar. That is a horrific circle, by the way. I'm not an artist, okay? I am no artist. This is a ship that needs to play at these closer ranges. We know this. This is how it works. Now, I'm saving my D-fire for these because they are a much bigger threat. 68 damage at a time. We're reliant on the flak bursts, okay? We see the damage output of continuous DPS. Guys, it's the flak puffs that do the damage, okay? We know this. And having half of the number that petro has is a big downgrade, unfortunately. Essex recalling his planes, so we're going to turn our D-fire off and back on again. That allows us to reset its cooldown. Very unique that you can do that with this consumable. We haven't really done a whole lot in this battle so far, and that's okay. We're a deterrent, right? Like they're all kiting away. And this is something that Novosibirsk is going to potentially struggle into at times because at such long ranges, we're not getting as good as salvos. I want to look now for the enemy team over here. Like this Hawaii is an interesting target. Yamato being bow on means he might try to turn away to deal with some incoming pressure, perhaps. We'll have to see. But I'm okay with reversing like this. Yamato just shot. We're not going to get spotted just yet. Sometimes playing bow in on these islands like this is really interesting, or maybe more like that, because petro can swing its turrets to either side very easily. Can't do that with Novo, but that's okay. We got a broadside Yamato. Look at this. I mean, it's exactly how you draw it up. And there is maybe the best dispersion I've seen out of the ship yet. And it's only one, guys. It's only one. I am 2 broadside. His shells go short, though, fortunately. Piemonte. Oh, my goodness. We haven't made the video on that one yet, but terrifying. There's the 5 citadels. Okay. Best salvo I've had yet. And we're doing it live. Oh, my goodness. You're telling me I just had to click the record button and now RNG is favorable? I didn't want to just complain about RNG when it came to these guns, guys, okay? But it really felt quite random as to whether I was getting damage or not. The shell velocity is incredible. The pen is incredible. The improved pen angles is incredible. It's like... It felt like I wasn't really changing what I was doing. And I would either get over pens and full pens, or it would be citadels and massive damage. In that way... Oh, and in only that way, really. Maybe the shell velocity, too. It feels a little bit like Slava. Oh, here comes Piemonte. This is going to hurt. Oh, actually, not too bad. Oh, Kitakazi's out of my range. I am horrible. Sorry, I was thinking about talking rather than what was going on in the game. Broadside Hawaii. Waterline Citadel, in this case. And decent dispersion. Ah, there we go. 5 overpens is fine. It's fine. You know, I think that... Actually, I need to go forward. I can't angle in time to this Piemonte. It's like Slava in that you feel like you're not getting damage unless you're hitting citadels. That is the kind of vibe that I was getting out of this ship. And it still feels a bit like that. Though this one is doing a lot better. We're on 41 hits and nearly 100k damage. That feels great, actually. Le Havre is an option here. I'm worried about Piemonte loading the AP against us here. So let's, he's going the other way. Great, great, great. Let's focus up over here. Perhaps catch a broadside Montana. This Le Havre could be an option. We're gonna have to rotate our rear turret, where with Petro, we would not have to do that. And you know what? The carrier has been avoiding us, so maybe he doesn't know that I'm not a Petro when it comes to my AA power level. And that I have D-Fire. He's worried about that. Perhaps. I'll take it. A bit of a yoink there. That's okay.
Enemy cruiser sunk.
It's not played very much. And I think that's... It makes sense to me that people don't play this ship very much. With a Petro, I would maybe consider pushing this, honestly. I don't think I live it. There's been a lot of times where, especially with my radar up, I would try to push this. Hawaii's down. Maybe we can get away with it. I'm worried about the battleships from range, honestly, just smashing my superstructure angled. But you know what? Let's try it. We're going to keep guns right, focus Monty and Piemonte. Monty is turning away, so we're going to go Piemonte here. Ideally. Avoid the torps. Great. He smoked, but too late. And... Oh, that's a disappointing one. Oh, no. Okay. Let's see. Let's see if I can get away with this. Okay, team is helping me out a lot here. Actually, only 6,000 is very, very solid from a Piemonte. Usually that ship is doing upwards of 15 to 20k per salvo. That one got buffed and is very, very strong as a result. We'll look at that one soon enough. Okay, Eaton pens. It's fine. Gotta use our heal. Double fire, I will rep. We're also getting to an island, so that's great. I am going to radar because this Piemonte looks like he's going broadside. And I clicked the wrong button. Again, I don't know what I'm doing today. But we do catch him. Yes, come on. Did I hit the DD first and that caused the Piemonte not to eat citadels? Or did we just get overpens into Piemonte's citadel? I am going to choose to think the Alvaro said, "Get down, Mr. President." And I don't know. I guess I'll choose that. I'll choose to believe that the Alvaro body blocked there. But man, that's too bad. Piemonte does have a vulnerable citadel. There we go. Double sit into Monty. Like, we actually do smash battleships, usually. Lag, but we get there. 3 full pens, we get there. I'm going to swap to the AP because this Piemonte is about to round the corner. Our reload is fast enough. I can greed this salvo. It's fast enough. We're fast enough, surely. We're angled to Hanover. It's fine. 4 full pens is okay. Actually, he's not coming around the corner. Improve pen angles into his bow. Oh, he angles in time, though. That's fine. Actually, we get that. Wow. Actually, that's really nice. Angle. That's a lot of damage. What was our angle there? 23 degrees. That's a lot of damage for a 23-degree angle. Essex? Can he really drop in this amount of space? There's no way, right? Get to our next heal. That's good. Okay, we're forced forward. That's bad, because now, yeah, Hanover is going to get a lot more free shots at us. We'll stick on the Alvaro, though, for now. My D-Fire's back up. I am going to drift too far here, unfortunately. I think I got to keep pushing. Ooh, and the Torp. That's bad. We only have Kuzi left. I have to push now. He perhaps led for me to stay stationary. Nice. We don't actually take that much damage there. And we have to have AP ready for this Valp at this point. Oh, the insta-fire from the Alvaro. That's very fortunate for him. Oh, Valp's turning for us. No, don't have the shot. Oh, I almost got him. Kuzi, there it is. Ah, he got his shot off. It's horrible dispersion, but I think we still die. No, we live. 11,000. No, let me live. Let me live. Let me live. 200! Okay, okay, okay. I think we're dead now, but pretty good game. Wait, not dead? How though? Greed. No, the game's over. I know I probably should have shot the Alvaro again. We can do 5,000 damage, but I wanted the carrier. We're not going to get the carrier. It's okay. It's okay. We're not going to get the carrier, but that's over 200,000. That's an E. So just turn OBS on and RNG favors you. 13 citadels, you know, 100 hits to 200,000 damage thereabouts is not double what I was getting throughout my play session, but it's closer to double than not. I was often getting similar number of hits to thousands of damage. And for a ship with higher alpha damage, great pen, ability to citadel, smash basically everything in the game, that's not a great look. This is what it should be. Wait. Why? Okay. Why couldn't the game be like this the whole time I was playing? I was having such a bad time recording for this ship, guys. I'm not gonna lie. I was not having a good day. That was great. We still ate more damage than Petro would have, but the guns performed, and perhaps we got a little bit more damage out of them at range and in situations where the pen mattered. I mean, let's be honest, Petro still has like Bismarck level pen with improved pen angles, so it's not like this ship has bad pen by any means. It's just Novos is still better. There are situations where into super battleships, even just tier 10 battleships, I mean, Citadel, that Kremlin Citadel at 17 kilometers or whatever it was, might have been a little bit of RNG hitting, I don't know, bouncing down into the Citadel or something like that through the upper belt. I don't know, but it is a decent ship, okay? All super ships are going to be good, right? Like, they're better than tier 10s for the most part. And Petro's a very strong tier 10. So it's still a strong ship, but I guess it makes sense when Petro is just so good and more comfortable to play, better AA, turrets are easier to use because they're 360 degree, smaller super like, look at how small this, look at how bow on. Like, what you gonna do? What you gonna do, bro? Novosibirsk, it doesn't look that bad actually, but as soon as you start to see the length and that, it's much worse in my opinion. And actually the port is misleading us here. If I go back to default camera, look at the default camera here on Petro. Notice how this ship just left our view. This is silly. This is silly details. You believe me. You believe me at this point, right? You believe me. Notice how that ship's in view now. The camera has zoomed out to show us Novosibirsk, and it still looks bigger on frame than Petro, okay? You believe. I don't have to convince you that Petro is a lot smaller and therefore is way tankier, right? Notice how the 40 mil deck armor here is very exposed. Where with Novo, it's got all this extra. It's almost as if they added a whole layer, like this first layer of superstructure. If they removed that, it would be similar size. I don't know. I'm still trying to convince you, even though you're already convinced, right? Surely, trust. Here's the build that I've been running. It's not getting all the HP we could. I know I'm complaining about its survivability, and I'm not getting survivability expert. But we need outnumbered. Top grade for DPM at those closer ranges. I just couldn't see myself giving much up for survivability expert. I really wanted the extra conceal to get in range. You can think about dropping it, maybe for this, or going with heavy AP shells for more damage. But I really wanted to get closer, so concealment allows me to not be spotted while trying to get closer. And then because we are closer to the enemy, there's more enemies within our gun range. Outnumbered activates sooner. We're closer, so the Soviet dispersion curve is better at that point. You know, all of those synergies we've talked about working together. And then still taking range mod, because then we're getting into that Soviet dispersion curve a little bit sooner. I don't want to play at 22 kilometers. Some games I was forced to, games that you're not seeing, where I was just forced to. I mean, ran into the Jacksonville dived with Essex smoke bot thing a couple of times, and I mean, yeah, you either get farmed out or you stay outside its range, and that's not a very enjoyable experience. Sometimes I did have to do that, and Novosibirsk was horrible at those longer ranges. So we're not taking it for its range, we're taking it to gain the improved close range dispersion that Soviet dispersion curve lets us at a little bit further ranges. Activating it more often means the ship should be better. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. At this point, this is a very long video, longer than the other super ship videos. Why am I playing one of the worst super ships, in my opinion? For way longer than the good ones. Something's got to change there. Let me go think about how I'm doing my recording sessions, because that's not right that I played Jacksonville 3 games and I played almost 20 games of this ship. Anyways, thank you very much for watching and have a great rest of your day.